Well, welcome along to this video where we thought we would talk about creating harmonious households in HMOs and flat shares. And joining me to discuss that is Rob from our sponsors, Ideal Flatmate. And Rob, I think it would be really interesting to talk to you about the demographic of flat sharers, because typically we've always considered that they're sort of students or young professionals, but that's changing, isn't it?
Absolutely right. I mean, the fastest growing segment of flat sharers today is actually the 40 plus bracket. At Ideal Flatmate, our biggest user group is still young professionals, but more and more, both on the flat hunter side and on the landlord's side, and particularly live-in landlords, you're seeing people coming to the site in their 40s, in their 50s, looking for an experience that is tailored to them. Mm-hmm. Typically, the sites that have been available to people so far have lumped all flat sharers in as one group, mm-hmm. and treated them all as your typical young professional who wants to live with other young professionals in Clapham. Mm-hmm. What we try to do is give people the experience for them that is tailored to their age and their background. Mm-hmm. So if you are in an older segment of flat sharing, we make it easy for you to find people who would be right for you to live with. Mm-hmm.
Indeed, and I think it's interesting because there are many circumstances where an older person might just want to rent a room. Very often they might be a contract worker, they have their own home, maybe 200 miles away, and they've got a new job or a new contract, and they're looking for a room. And as you say, they're going to want to be in a household with people that have similar interests to them. And I think it's an interesting concept for landlords to consider renting to older tenants. I can see that there could be a little niche developing there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, typically your older tenant will be more used to living in a home and taking care of the property. Mm-hmm. They may be more reliable, obviously. It's not good to generalise. But just in general, it's something that landlords should be aware of, that there is a growing market of older flat sharers for them to tap into. Mm. And if you do have a flat share that's right for them, you're going to be providing a service that they really appreciate. And when we've talked to some of our flat sharers, we've talked to people who are maybe in their 40s and 50s, and they've talked about how when they're in their 20s, it was very easy to find a room to rent on a flat share. And now that they're in the 40s and 50s, it seems like nothing is really catering to them. Mm. And life can take you in all sorts of directions now. And I think it's important we recognise that the flat sharer isn't always just one typical cookie cutter.
I totally agree with you. And I think there's so many benefits to landlords to create what I call harmonious households, because you only have to have one person that doesn't fit in and they can disrupt everybody else. And I often talk about what I call a cuckoo tenant, which is somebody that comes in and who doesn't fit in with anybody else in the household, and they actually push all the others out. So from a landlord perspective, it's really important to get like-minded people together, and that's actually one of the benefits of your site, isn't it?
That's exactly what our experience has been when we've talked to landlords. And a lot of our landlords are fantastic, and they'll spend a lot of time and money creating a flat share that is comfortable for their tenants, that it's got all the modern conveniences and so on. But they will tell us without fail the reason for tenants leaving, bar the typical things, is there's been a fallout and there's been a problem. And it's the same with flat sharers, right? Very rarely a tenant will say, I left because something wasn't quite right about the property. It's the people and the relationships. And just one bad egg, very often, can destroy the whole culture in an HMO. So what we try to encourage people to do is to take time to use our matching test, and really make sure that the people who are coming in are going to get on with your other tenants as well, because that's going to help you secure a longer tenancy and reduce your voids. So we're seeing a lot more landlords recognise the need to really make sure that first of all, they get the right tenants in the first place. Mm-hmm. And secondly, when you do find there's a situation with somebody being disruptive, you can't jump to conclusions, but it's better to take action sooner than later, because it can hit you in the pocket if you take your time.
Indeed. I often find in an HMO that there will be one person that's like kind of the house mother, if you like, and who will report back to the landlord. And one of the things that can be done is if there are issues, maybe for the landlord just to call a meeting of all the household and just, you know, try and deal with it in that manner. But I think, as you've rightly said, the more effort you put in at the beginning to get the right mix of people, the better. And it doesn't necessarily have to be all female household or all male household. It really is that mix that's important.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's tricks, and I think people will learn the longer they've been landlords, it seems. But we spend a lot of time researching what makes harmonious flat shares, and we ran a study of over 1,000 flat sharers. So if you look on our site, you can see some of the ways that we help people categorize and save you time. But landlords will learn their own methods of seeing the types of people from backgrounds and the types of personalities that will clash. So you can't obviously get a system that's 100% perfect, but there's definitely ways to take some interest in whether people are going to get along. And as I said, when you notice an issue, act quickly.
Yeah.
And some of our best landlords, I think what they will do best is at least have a communication channel open with their tenants.
Yes.
So it's not just a case of if something goes wrong, and they're not always breathing down their tenants' necks, but at least the communication is open so that if something is going wrong in the house, they know sooner rather than later.
Now, we also talk a little bit about what you do with student households, because again, you know, we have the famous TV program, The Young Ones, which, you know, paints students as party animals and living in very, very poor accommodation. Really, those days are so long gone. And I actually think that today's students have very high expectations of the quality of their accommodation, and landlords need to be aware of that.
Yeah, they do, absolutely. And you know, a lot of the students, particularly in London, which is our obviously hub and biggest focus, will be, you know, incredibly busy. Some of the courses that these people are doing, not only do they cost a lot more than they used to, but they're going to be studying a lot of the time. So, you know, I mean, when I was at uni, I liked to have a good time as well as work hard, but I think it's shifting much more to people wanting somewhere where, yes, it can be sociable, and yes, it can be a fun place for you to meet new people and make friends, particularly if you're new to the city, but also it's a group of people who've got a really difficult degree to get done and need somewhere comfortable where they can feel safe and can feel at home. So there's a brilliant market there still, and still a growing market for landlords who are able to provide flat shares that are high quality, that are safe, that are decent, so that the students are happy, and so are their parents, who often are their guarantors.
Indeed, that's a very, very good point. So just as we finish here, Rob, perhaps you could just kind of give us a few insights again how landlords can get the most out of Ideal Flatmate to create that harmonious household.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the first thing to do is to come on the site and create a listing. It's absolutely free to get your first listing on Ideal Flatmate, and you only are asked to upgrade to one of our plans when you first get an inquiry. So, you know, create your listing, make sure you have high quality professional photos. Very obviously important. That's the number one thing. A nice, clear, crisp description of the property, and include in your description the kind of tenants you are looking for. If you have a household of a certain age group or a student household, you can make that clear on our site, and you can also browse through over 50,000 registered flatmates now on Ideal Flatmate and message people who you think might be right for your property. So we're seeing a lot of landlords with, you know, HMOs for students or young professionals using our flatmate search to go and actually do the outreach and say, you're looking for a room in my area, I've got just the thing for you.
I do like that aspect of your site actually as well, because as you say, landlords can actually identify tenants that they feel would fit in with the existing household. And I think that's a really good thing to be able for the landlord to reach out to the tenant, as well as obviously tenants reaching out to landlords as well.
Yeah, it's amazing, really. I mean, there's some really great landlords out there, and we're sort of one of our big beliefs is to be champions of good landlords, because it encourages others to do the same. And also we think that, you know, landlords often the good landlords don't get the press they deserve, and they will set up great houses for students, young professionals, people of all backgrounds. And what we're seeing now more and more is them going out and looking for people who have the right profiles for them. So if you are, you know, a landlord with a HMO or 2-3 bed, having a look on our site, you can list a property, but also have a go at searching through flatmates and get proactive about finding the people that you want in your property. And they may well stay for a few years and deliver you, you know, a good stable income.
Fantastic. Well, go and have a look at the Ideal Flatmate website, because not only can you let individual rooms if you're looking to fill an HMO, but also there are individual whole dwelling listings can be made as well, can't they?
Absolutely, exactly. So if somebody moves out of a room, obviously it's easy to list that room. But also we have a lot of 3, 4, 5 beds. And for those types of properties, really, Ideal Flatmate's perfect in that you can list the property, but also other flatmates can come see if they are well matched together, and potentially move into your property.
I really, really like that. Well, thank you ever so much for joining me, and good luck with Ideal Flatmate. I think it's a very exciting journey that you guys are on, and it's going to be very interesting to follow your progress and see how the site develops, because I know that you're adding kind of new features all the time, aren't you?
We are adding new features all the time, and you'll have, you know, seen the design today is different to what it was even yesterday. So some of the most, you know, exciting new features are really improving our flatmate search for landlords, as I've mentioned already. We've got some interesting new developments in the pipeline, so I just encourage you to keep looking at the site. I don't want to give everything away, obviously, to our competitors. But if people check back, we are all about making it easy and simple for our landlords to find the right tenants for them. And we drive our product development based on continuous consultation with our users. So if you have an idea or any suggestions for the site, we love to hear it. And often you'll see ideas go from a landlord suggesting something to us on email or on the phone to on the live site in a matter of weeks. So that's what we're all about, being really dynamic and just, you know, filling the gap that we think this market has in it.
Brilliant. Well, exciting times ahead for Ideal Flatmate. And if you've got any comments on this interview, or you would like to put forward any suggestions on this topic, then we would be very interested to hear them. And the guys from Ideal Flatmate will be part of the Property Tribes community. They will be on hand to answer any questions, won't you?
Absolutely. We're here. We'll be engaging, logging in. So yeah, please get chatting.